Welcome back to another video. I am going to be talking about Buddhism in just plain terminology. I'm not going to be utilizing a lot of the terminology that Buddhism speaks in, but the few points that I'm going to raise is going to explain as best as you can in simple terms the general idea of Buddhism. Starting out is the concept of impermanence. Nothing is permanent. Okay, so that is somewhat obvious, right? There's wear and tear on anything, like everything breaks down eventually. But within that concept is also the concept of eternity. So where does that which is impermanent go when there is eternity? The idea is that impermanence itself is also impermanent. So there is an afterlife. And the idea of the afterlife causes another concept of a limitation of time in the universe until the universe again resets. And that's where the new afterlife begins. That's where the afterlife begins. The following concept to that is that time itself is impermanent and comes to an end. And therefore, everything is impermanent. So there are three different aspects to impermanence that have to do with essentially the presence or non-presence of eternity. Following that is the idea of overcoming desire. If all is impermanent, then desire is impermanent. If impermanence itself is also impermanent, then to overcome desire is for that desire to remanifest in a different form or come back in a different form in your life somewhere, more than likely, which would potentially be the afterlife or potentially be through temptations challenges such as temptation, which leads to the concept of shedding earthly pleasures, letting go of earthly pleasures, so to speak. There's this aspect of non-violence to the concept. Don't break a healthy seed. Don't clip plants even. Like don't break the stem of a plant. Like don't eat meat, but these things are acceptable if they are offered to you in certain circumstances according to certain aspects of it, because there is also a concept where you do not receive something before you have given something, right? And so to tie that back with letting go of earthly pleasures, and the idea of not eating certain foods unless they're offered to you is sort of a concept that ties into empathy or feeling the pain of that which feels pain, including plants and animals. And this leads to the concept of life is suffering. Because we suffer, the food we eat suffers, therefore the rest of the earth suffers, therefore the universe suffers. Life is suffering. That is sort of the central idea that is behind the core of Buddhism. There is also overcoming desire, however, and so to allow yourself to overcome the desire to overcome the suffering, you overcome the suffering. And in a way that alleviates the desire, right? It leads to a more enlightened perspective of life. There is also letting go of different emotions, but the emotions that lead to violence, which is also why I would I would have to speculate here. I haven't looked into every single reason. I don't think it's just the desire aspect of sexual relationships, but I think the reason that Buddhism practices abstinence is to overcome the jealous nature, which can lead to violent confrontations, and also, even basic anger in and of itself, doing everything you can to let go of that, not to allow it to be a part of yourself. Where that comes in is accepting that life is suffering, to overcome that anger. So the greater you suffer, the greater you have to accept the suffering. And it just grows and grows and grows. And that's enlightenment. To accept suffering without anger and without sorrow, to achieve happiness, essentially, which is sort of a paradox of the system of Buddhism. It is all a desire to overcome desire that really sparks the conversation of Buddhism. What is it to overcome desire? You would have to seek it out, right? And to seek something out is desire-based, right? And it's harder than someone might think to just forget about desire. Desire happens somewhat naturally. It comes from a new place that you want to then get to. It's just an impulse, but overcoming that impulse requires dedication to a certain mindset of allowing desire to be desire, so to speak. Just kind of be one with it. And that is also a concept of Buddhism, is that all is one. There is one and there is all, and it is the same. This is the general concept of Buddhism. There's not much more to explain. There's a lot to learn, but not much more to explain if you just want the beginning to end compressed into a single story. that fits in your day, then that's about it. So you can listen to this over again and be confused or begin understanding, but that is generally what they are teaching. It gets to those nitty-gritty points, that might not be everything you hear about Buddhism, but that's everything Buddhism implies. And so then you can take that with you and learn what Buddhism is saying based on that. So if you want to do your own research on it, I encourage it. And it is really helpful to integrate it into your creative thinking. And it's also helpful for your intellectual thought processes as well, because it feeds off of the creative thinking, which is why things like meditation are beneficial anyway, with or without Buddhism. Buddhism is just a helpful grounding tool to better work out your mind for yourself. Whether or not tool is the right word or not, but it's a grounding system. It's a system that grounds your beliefs. And that is very useful, especially in a society. You can't have a peaceful society without a grounded belief, like without grounded beliefs, I should say. So if this video was useful, please hit a thumbs up and leave a comment if you like, and be sure to subscribe if you want more content like this and more on my channel.